The moment little Arya collapsed on the sunlit garden tiles, her tiny legs buckling as if the world had suddenly turned too heavy for her, everything inside Rowan Hale shattered. He sprinted toward her, his heart pounding, his mind racing, every instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. But what pierced him deeper than the sight of his daughter trembling wasn't the fall. It was the confession whispered by the frightened boy who had been playing with her. A confession that would rip open secrets Rowan never imagined existed. A confession that began with 7 devastating words. Your fiancé won't let your daughter walk. Before Rowan could process the meaning, his world tilted, and the truth began unraveling faster than he could control. That if you believe in kindness, hope, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales to support more heart-touching stories just like this. The day had begun beautifully, with warm daylight spilling across Rowan's sprawling countryside estate, an oasis he had built with years of relentless work and sacrifices. A self-made millionaire known for innovation and generosity, Rowan Hale was admired by many but deeply understood by few. His late wife, Marin, had been the last person who knew the softness beneath his driven exterior, and since her passing, only his daughter Arya truly held access to the tenderness buried inside him. The two were inseparable, their connection stitched with grief, laughter, and a shared resilience to keep moving forward. When he eventually met Celestine Vale, a poised and enchanting woman who offered him companionship after years of loneliness, Rowan believed life was giving him a new chance at love. Celestine seemed caring and attentive at first, especially toward Arya, always presenting gifts, smiles, and gentle reassurances. But slowly, subtle changes began to surface, shadows flickering where once there had been light. At first, he noticed how Arya grew unusually silent whenever Celestine entered the room. Then Rowan found her toys missing or placed out of reach, followed by Arya's sudden clinginess whenever he tried to leave for work. When he questioned Celestine, she offered polished explanations wrapped in concern, insisting she was only trying to teach Arya discipline and independence. Rowan, blinded by his desire to rebuild his life, accepted her answers, convincing himself that Arya was simply adjusting to the presence of another woman in their home. The more Celestine assured him of her devotion, the more he pushed aside his growing unease. Until the day Arya fell, the boy who revealed the truth, Finley, a shy 8-year-old from the neighboring estate, had been playing tag with Arya under the bright morning sky. His voice trembled as he explained that Arya had not tripped on her own. Instead, Celestine had been quietly keeping her away from walking freely, claiming Arya didn't deserve to run around until she learned proper conduct, and had forced her to stay seated for long stretches even when she begged to move. Finley had seen it, heard it, even tried telling Arya to speak up, but she had shaken her head, terrified of angering Celestine. Finley admitted that earlier that day, when Celestine wasn't watching, Arya had tried running happily across the yard for the first time in hours, and her little legs, stiff, numb, and weakened, couldn't hold her weight. Rowan's stomach had twisted into knots as he carried his daughter inside. Her legs were trembling, not from injury, but from exhaustion. Hours of being forced to sit still, denied the movement and joy that every child needed. He tried soothing her until she drifted into a restless sleep, clutching his shirt as if the world outside him were too frightening to face. Then he stood up, trembling with a fury he had never known. Celestine found him in the corridor, sunlight streaming through the tall windows framing her like some ethereal figure, but Rowan saw through the facade now. Celestine offered her version of events, dripping with guilt, painting words designed to manipulate, insisting she had only been trying to keep Arya safe. But Rowan felt something deeper than anger, something like betrayal clawing through his chest. He realized he had allowed this woman into his home, his family, his daughter's fragile world, and she had used that access to chip away at the child he loved more than life itself. He told her to leave his estate immediately, and for the first time, the smooth mask Celestine wore cracked into a glare filled with resentment, a silent confession that Finley's words had been true all along. But the story did not end there. Rowan was determined to repair the emotional harm done to Arya, to show her through every sunrise that her safety and joy were his greatest priorities. He cleared his schedule, canceling meetings worth millions, choosing instead to spend every morning by her side. He walked with her under the warm daylight, encouraging her to step freely. The first days were difficult. Arya hesitated, fearful that every step might bring scolding or punishment. But Rowan held her gently, letting her set the pace. Slowly, her confidence returned. She began to smile again, small, uncertain smiles, but genuine ones. She laughed when the sunlight caught in her hair, ran a few steps ahead during their garden walks, then turned back to him with wide eyes full of hope. The healing was not just for her. Rowan felt something inside amend with each day he showed her she was safe. But something extraordinary happened that accelerated Arya's recovery and changed Rowan's life too. Finley's mother, Dr. Lyra Alden, a well-known pediatric therapist and rehabilitation specialist, visited Rowan after hearing what happened. She was warm-hearted, upright, and carried a steady courage that made people feel instantly anchored. She apologized for her son revealing the hard truth so bluntly, but Rowan thanked her instead. Finley's honesty had saved Arya. Dr. Lyra offered to guide Arya's emotional and physical recovery, explaining that the trauma of being controlled, restricted, or frightened at such a young age could linger deeply unless gently treated. Thus began a new chapter in their lives. Under the gentle daytime sun filtering through the therapy room windows, Arya slowly rebuilt her trust in movement and freedom. Lyra worked with patience and understanding, turning every session into a game, a safe haven where Arya could rediscover joy. Rowan watched, more grateful each day, his admiration for Lyra growing as he saw how she helped his daughter without judgment or conditions. He saw how naturally she nurtured children's hearts, how sincerely she wished to see them thrive in time. Arya formed a deep bond with Lyra, seeing her as someone who protected and cared for her in ways that made her feel strong again. Rowan found himself drawn to Lyra not because she filled a void, but because she stood as someone genuine, someone who loved from honesty, not ego, compassion, not control. He began spending more time with her during Arya's sessions, offering help, sharing stories of his late wife, confessing the guilt that gnawed at him. Lyra never judged him for trusting Celestine. Instead, she told him that people who hope for love often give second chances even when their hearts warn them otherwise. As the days turned into weeks, the estate transformed from a house burdened with shadows to a home blooming with warmth. Arya began running across the fields again, her laughter echoing across the gardens. Finley visited often, becoming Arya's closest friend. Rowan and Lyra, once strangers connected by incident, now shared a quiet closeness that neither spoke aloud, but both felt deeply. Then came the moment that sealed their future unexpectedly. One bright afternoon, Arya ran across the garden with newfound confidence and stumbled, not out of fear, but out of excitement, and Lyra caught her before she hit the ground. Arya laughed, hugging Lyra tightly and saying, in her small but hopeful voice, that she wanted Lyra to stay forever because she made the sunshine feel safer. Rowan stood there, his throat tightening with emotion, realizing that sometimes life doesn't give second chances. It gives better beginnings disguised as broken moments. And Rowan knew he had found not just healing for his daughter, but a renewed chapter for himself.